Hi everybody, this is Toffee bringing you part 4 of my Fire Emblem 12 Maniac Mode 100% Growth LTC. Right away, we have another guided chapter, and this map is the reason why Chris had to be one of our combat leads in this run. It's a tiny route map, but the more important point is that this is where we recruit Katarina. To do this, Chris must talk to her 3 times. Since we can clear out the entire map in one turn, we need to refresh Chris twice for the fastest turn count, and this will require a use of the Again staff. Again is usually weaker than Rescue or Warp, but this is one of the few occasions where it is uniquely needed. Our convoy has been getting filled up, so I go on a selling spree to free up some space. There are 3 enemies Chris can reach as he talks to Katarina, and he'll pick off one with each action he takes. While this is going on, I guess I can talk about Katarina. As far as we are concerned, Katarina's C staves is the most important thing about her, letting her be an extra warper in the upcoming maps. I give her the bond drop since I have her sit near the front lines in one upcoming map, but that actually was avoidable in hindsight. Anyway, that'll be chapter 16 next in one turn. Up until this point, we've been a little coy with the warp staff since we were going for the double Hammerne Rescue route, but chapter 17 is where we finally start to use it in earnest, and as such, the run will start to significantly diverge from higher difficulties from now on. Just like chapter 16, the throne area is sealed behind a door. It's too far away to reach normally on turn 1, so we need to warp a thief over to unlock it. The village near the starting area has a recruitable Tomas. Tomas's bow rank is glitched due to a mistake in my patch, but it doesn't matter since Tomas simply exists. Fina refreshes Marth before we send him to the throne area. The boss Shima is recruitable, requiring Marth to talk to her and for us to spare all the grass soldiers. Shima exists. She then walks off the throne to recruit Samson, who also exists. Militia will then break the Again staff so we can finish chapter 17 in one turn. At the end of the chapter we'll be joined by Frost, who is another unit with C staves and hence a warper. Chapter 18 is the first chapter in the whole game where we will have no new recruits joining us. We start at the center of the map with the village Marth needs to visit on the left and the seize point on the right. On turn 1, we dance Lind to rush forward and clear out the seize area by wiping out all the mobile generals. Since Militia actually made it to Ace staves earlier in the run, I decided to flex by using Fortify. The Wolfguard's army is to the north, and I placed Chris within the range of the frontmost generics just to farm more lance rank. Katri and Luke fly over to pick off a couple of enemies on turn 2. And Pala will help clear the way at that point as well. Actually caps his magic. Shame that doesn't enable any extra possibilities. On turn 2, Marth visits the village to net us the Light Sphere, which heals 20 HP at the start of each turn. Lind will rescue Marth over to the right, and Fina will dance for him, and will clean up to finish chapter 18 in 2 turns. Chapter 19 is the site of perhaps the second most infamous character recruitment in the series. Well, it's a recruitment chain to be specific. In FE3 Book 2, only Rocher of the Wolfguard was recruitable, but this time around we can grab the entire squad if we know what we're doing. Rocher is still in the bottom right village, but the enemy phase after he joins us, Violin shows up from the bottom left, and Rocher needs to talk to him to recruit him. Violin then recruits Sedgar, who starts in the top right, and Sedgar can recruit Wolf, who starts near the seize point. This chapter is where the second rescue staff is at its most potent, and is also the map we wanted Lind and Militia to pump up their bulk for. We will bring back Merrick, this time as a cleric. We stack the Star Sphere and Rainbow Potion on Katarina, and now she gets a max support from Chris and Marth. We start by warping Marth to the village, And we then warp Katarina to the area that's about halfway between Wolf and Sedgar. Once Rocher joins us, Merrick immediately rescues him back, which gets him out of danger and also gets him to the general vicinity of where Wyland is going to be. We need to pull Marth back as well, but instead of just rescuing him here immediately, we go with a different approach. We trade the rescue staff upwards so Chris can take it into his own inventory. While standing on this specific spot. Fina then refreshes him, and Chris flies up to that tile to be just within Sedgar's range. He has a 3-use javelin equipped because we need him to deal with exactly 3 enemies before Sedgar will get a chance to move. With the rescue staff up there, Katarina can take it from Chris and directly rescue Marth to the throne area. This puts Marth in that spot, which is just in range to seize, and will also get Wolf to start moving. By doing things this way, we get Wolf and Sedgar to move closer together when they're still enemies. Our other units clear out of the starting area, but Lind and Militia have to stay put and deal with Violent's crew's attacks. Muth hits A swords there. And Chris hits A lances. Chris breaks his javelin there, which ensures he won't counter and murder Sedgar. Despite her lower stats, Katarina's avoid is being boosted by her supports with Chris and Marth. Though in hindsight, it would have been smarter to just have someone like Katria do this job since it doesn't need staff rank. Due to Violent being a reinforcement, this map is unavoidably floored at 2 turns. This does, however, give us the room to grab all of the droppable items on this map. Rocher talks to Violent. Then Katarina will rescue Violent to the north. This will let the rest of the Wolfguard recruitment chain play out without needing more staff uses. Chris will kill the boss, and that'll be chapter 19 in 2 turns. Chapter 20 will be our final showdown with Hardin. However, the clear I'm going to show you will be a little weird, and it is the result of a certain future strategy I theorized not working correctly. And as such, I had to come back and change this clear to ensure I would still finish the run at the lowest turn count. Hardin is an incredibly bulky boss who is almost impossible to double attack, and he isn't weak to any effective weaponry. He also has 8 lances and wields the Gradipus. This makes him actually difficult to dispatch in one round of combat. In fact, even our capped out Marth cannot do it. With the Max Forge Silver Sword, the strongest possible physical weapon he can use, he falls 5 attacks short of one-shotting with a crit, while with the Max Forge Levin Sword, he falls 7 attacks short. The one weapon he could one-round Harden with is a Brave Sword forged to plus 8 or above, but the first accessible Brave Sword is on a treasure chest on this map, meaning we have no time to forge it. Even the quicksword from House Everyone is too weak to let Marth kill Hardin. If we had access to longbows, we could kill the enemies surrounding Medea and have her try to get involved, but we cannot get any before this map. Medea simply exists. As such, it is not possible to one-turn this map with just one warp and one again on Maniac mode, unless you visit the online shop where you can buy brave swords and longbows. On the subject of the again staff, it is in the treasure room and is the one chest we will obtain in this clear. Due to the aforementioned kerfuffle with the future map, we can only spend one warp use on this map, and as such we will send Marth in to duel with Hardin. Since we attacked Hardin, the enemies who would earlier have not attacked Medea until turn 4 become aggressive. We will also face a round of enemy reinforcements from behind us. We set up a wall to protect our squishy units. And Militia will use the third and final use of Hammerne on Warp to power us for the battles ahead. Merrick will be the one to grab the again staff purely out of bias. Medea gets doubled by the enemies around her. Oh no, that enemy was just too accurate, and she died. This obviously is not strictly necessary. If we had moved the warp use from chapter 14 to here, we could have saved her life, but that clear was too cool to pass up. Marth kills Hardin on enemy face to get us the Gradivis and the Dark Sphere. With that, we now have all 5 of the spheres, and that means Marth's Fire Emblem becomes the Binding Shield. Unfortunately, this means the effects of the Light Sphere, Geosphere, and Life Sphere disappear, and the Star Sphere's effect is locked to Marth for the rest of the run. But it does mean we'll be getting the good ending. From now on, at the start of every player phase, the Binding Shield will dispel any Earth Dragons on the map. And Marth will seize to complete chapter 20 in 2 turns. Well, it's time for the last of the guided chapters. Chapter 20X is the last map we'll be playing mostly straight, and is the second and final Fog of War map in the game. Accelerating this map with movement staves is too difficult to be worth bothering with. We can technically save a turn here with 2 warp uses and an again use, but it's too expensive to be worth considering. On hard mode, you can actually save a turn with just 2 warp uses thanks to there being fewer enemies on the map, which can be integrated into an LTC run, but the staff routing then annoyingly requires training up 2 again staff users not named Militia. Kadria's job requires a flyer to fly over the pillars, since Fina must take the other best starting spot. Militia went there to bait a longbow sniper to attack her from next to the wall, which will keep him out of the way on the next turn. On turn 2, Marth spots a general in the way, and Fina can then refresh him. Pala then spots another general for Kadria to kill. And Marth and Chris move out. Fina needed enough bulk to take that hit from the sniper. In turn 3, Fina can dance for Pala, who can just get to 2 range of the boss to expose her for Chris to kill. Marth will then seize to complete chapter 20x in 3 turns. We're reaching the end of this run, and so we will stop hesitating about breaking out our staves. Chapter 21 is a giant map, but the warp staff does not care too much about distance. This is the map that I had theorized a strategy that ended up not working out, and hence had to redo the run from chapter 20 onwards for. We want Marth to visit the village in the top right to grab the Starlight Tome, which we need to kill a future boss. But to recruit Michalis, we first want Minerva to take an action on top of the village, which of course means we need to spend a staff use to get her off the village so Marth can visit it. Most online documentation says that that's all that's needed to recruit him, and as such I theorized that you could have Minerva die to the wyvern next to the village to save a staff use. Indeed, you can try this for yourself and you'll see a funny scene where the Minerva Michalis event actually plays despite Minerva being dead. Sadly, it turns out that the Michalis recruitment event at the end of the chapter has a failsafe which requires Minerva to still be alive, so this strategy ended up being a dud. We're joined by Ymir, who exists. Chapter 21 is the first chapter where our abundance of reserve warpers come out to play. We start off by warping Minerva to the village and activating the Michalis event. We then warp Marth to join her, and Militia will again Minerva to get her to move off the village. The secret shop is unfortunately 11 tiles away from the village, so even if Minerva was a Draco Knight, she cannot visit it. Marth then visits the village to grab Starlight. If we had saved one use of the first rescue staff and hence had 2 separate copies, we could replace this warp on Marth with Minerva rescuing Marth as she walks onto the village. Our mascot Merrick is back, this time using the final use of rescue to pull Marth back to the starting area. Fina will dance for him before we warp him to the boss area. Lind will finally again Marth, the only time a non-militia unit has to use again, and he'll seize to complete chapter 21 in 1 turn. At the end of the chapter, Ymir gives us a tiger head hat, the last customization of the playthrough. Chapter 22 is a very straightforward map. All we need to do is open the door to the throne room and then warp Marth to the throne to kill the boss and then seize. Michalis joined us after the previous map, and he exists. We're joined by Nagi, who exists as well. In FE3 Book 2, the 3 endgame chapters all had to be done in one go without access to a preps menu in between, but we fortunately did not have any such restriction. Lind caps out her magic there, not that it's strictly needed. Militia breaks the again staff, and that'll be chapter 22 in 1 turn. We have just 2 uses of Warp left, but just like in Shadow Dragon, there is a final game changer in sight. Chapter 23 sees us face off against Garnif, and unlike in the Shadow Dragon LTC, we actually have the Starlight Tome and a very powerful sage in Lind, who's looking to finally get her revenge after all these years. This is the one map we trained Wendell's staff rank for. We start off by warping Chris to the top right enclosed chamber to kill the sorcerer on the chest. This is necessary to let Merrick grab the Hammerne that lies within with the last use of Thief. Since Warp is not available on higher difficulties, this means that this Hammerne staff and the Alm staff in the opposite chamber are not accessible on higher difficulties as well. Merrick earns a third and final level up, and Militia can then take Hammerne from him and repair the Warp staff again, giving us more than enough Warp uses for the rest of the playthrough. We then warp Pala to the Alm chamber. Since we do not have any more uses of the Thief stuff, we'll have to warp Julian over there to snag it. If we had avoided burning up a use of Thief in Chapter 10, we could just have used that here to get the Alm staff without needing Wendell. Of course, we could also have just avoided killing off Medea. Lind will kill Garneth with the Starlight crit, and then Marth will seize to complete Chapter 23 in one turn. On to Endgame. Alright, it's time for the final encounter with Medeas. After relaxing for most of the run, our beloved Merrick has decided it's time he had a big moment, so he'll chug all of the spirit dust we've obtained throughout the game, and the ones from the preps shop, before promoting and taking the rainbow potion. He also reclasses to Sage for the extra 2 magic, and will take up his trusty Excalibur tome. The conceit of this map is that Medeas is surrounded by the 4 kidnapped sisters from throughout the story, and we need to either kill or recruit them to avoid Medeas resurrecting himself by sacrificing them, which for each sister would heal him back up to 25% of his max HP. The sisters are Ellis, Lena, Nina, and Maria, who are recruited by Merrick, Julian, Sirius, and Minerva respectively. The sisters are not so far away that we cannot walk up to them, and Sirius, with Fina's help, will get to Nina and hand her the Alm Staff. The Alm Staff is A rank, can only be used by princesses, and resurrects one dead unit. In our case, that unit will be Medea, but my original plan, if my Chapter 21 strategy had worked, was to resurrect Minerva here to recruit Maria. We do want some extra firepower for Medeas, so we will send Marth to contest the Shadow Dragon with his Blade of Light. We were just barely short on warp uses, so we had to repair the warp staff again. Nina will do the honors of resurrecting Medea. Marth will do most of the work against Medeas with his cap stats A swords and falchion, letting him do 27 times 3 or 81 out of Medeas' 92 HP with a crit. On this difficulty and higher, nobody can actually one-round Medeas, so we need someone to tag in to finish the job. Those of you who've watched my work before, would there be any more fitting way to finish this run than this? That'll be endgame in one turn, wrapping up this playthrough. It's done. FE12 Maniac Mode, full recruitment completed in 114 turns. I hope you had fun watching.